Yeah guys, so welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to be talking about simultaneous equation, and we are going to be dealing with two equations. The first one is s plus y is equals to 5 and s minus y is equals to 1. The second one is 3s plus 4y is equals to -2 and s plus y is equals to 0. We are going to be solving these two equations using both elimination method and substitution method. So how do we go about this? The first thing you need to know when solving simultaneous equation using elimination method is the coefficient of the dependent variable. S and y are the dependent variable. In this place, s and y are the dependent variable. In this place, s and y are the dependent variable. So the coefficient is what is in front of s and in front of y. The coefficient of s in this case is 1. There's an invisible 1 here. And the coefficient of y in this place is also 1. There's an invisible 1. The coefficient of s here is 1 as well. But here the coefficient of s is what? -1. So how do you do that? In this case, you can see that we have the coefficient of, if we add equation 1 and equation 2, we see how the coefficient of y we cancelled out because of y minus y is equals to 0. So in this case, we don't need to do anything much. All we just need to do is what? Add equation 1 and equation 2. And this is what we are doing here. We have s minus y plus s plus y is equals to 1 plus 5. In other words, we added what? S minus y, which is what is here. We added it here. And s plus y, which is what is here. We added it here. And then 1, which is what is here. And 5, which is what is here. So by the time we open that bracket with the invisible one outside of each bracket, we are going to have what? S minus y plus s plus y is equals to 6 when we add these two together. So what is the next thing we are going to have? We are going to, bring the like terms together. So, we are going to put -y plus y and s plus s just to make sure our solution is clear. By the time we add that up, we are going to have 2x is equals to 6 because -y plus y is equals to 0. We divide both sides by 2. That's what we did here. And then we are going to get our first answer as what? 3. So what do we do after getting our first answer as 3, which is s? What we can do is we can either substitute that 3 into equation 1 or equation 2. The thing is, that is why in simultaneous equation they can ask you find the solution that makes both equations true. It simply means that when you get your first answer, you can substitute it into equation 1 or equation 2, equation 1 or equation 2, depending on the one you find easier to solve. So I also advise that you look at the one that is easier to solve to know the one you want to choose. So by the time we do that, we are going to have what? We are substituting into equation 1 in this case, this equation 1. So anywhere we see s in equation 1, we are going to replace it with 3. So equation 1 is what? S plus y is equals to 5. So we are going to replace x, which we are going to turn it to 3. So we are going to have 3 plus y is equals to 5. We subtract 3 from both sides in order to make y the subject of formula. And then we have y is equals to 2. Let's look at the same problem using substitution method. So in substitution method, the first thing you want to do is what? You don't need to look for whether something can cancel out or the coefficient of anything. All you just need to do is you have to make either s or y the subject of formula in equation 1 and then substitute that into equation 2. You get your first value. Then after doing that, then you can substitute that answer back into equation 1. In this case, you have to be really careful where you are substituting the answer into, because that's very critical. So what are we going to do? We are going to have what? In this case, we want to make what? The subject of formula in equation 1, which is s plus y is equals to 5. So in order to do that, we're going to have what? S plus y minus y is equals to 5 minus y because we want to eliminate this y. So we simply what? Subtract the y from both sides. So we are going to have what? S is equals to 5 minus y. So after getting s is equals to 5 minus y, this is not the real value of s, but this is an equation to represent x, the value of x. So we can substitute that 5 minus y into equation 2. So we are going to have, this is equation 2 here. So we are going to have what? 5 minus y is equals to 1. Because we are going to replace what? X with 5 minus y. And then we subtract this y that is here. We put it back here. Is equals to 1. Let's assume this y sign was a positive sign. Then we are going to add it. But in this place is negative. So you just substitute your value for s and leave the rest of the equation as it is. So what are we going to do now? What we are going to do is we are going to try and make y the subject of formula at the same time simplifying. So we are going to subtract 5 from both sides because 5 is what is preventing y from becoming the subject of formula here. So by the time we subtract 5 from both sides, we are going to have 1 minus 5. And then we know that negative y minus y is going to give you what? Negative 2y, because negative minus negative is going to give you a negative sign, but they are going to add up. So negative minus negative is going to give you what? Negative 2y. Have that at the back of your mind, that negative minus negative is going to give you a negative sign, but they will add up. So after we do that, 5 minus 5 will cancel out. So we are going to be left with what? Minus 2y is equals to negative 4. We divide both sides by 2 and we're going to get what? Y is equals to 2, which is the exact same thing we got here. You can see that. And after getting y is equals to 2, you can substitute your answer into either equation 1 or equation 2. So what do we do next? We're going to have s plus y is equals to what? 5. Then we're going to replace what? Y with 2 anywhere we see what? Y in equation what? In equation 1. So we're going to have what? S plus 2 is equals to what? S plus 2 is equals to 5. Then now we want to make what? S the subject of formula by subtracting 2, because this is the only thing that is disturbing x from being the subject of formula. So we subtract 2 from both sides. We are going to have what? S plus 2 minus 2 is equals to 5 minus 2. So this is going to cancel out. 2 minus 2 is going to be equals to 0. And 5 minus 2 is going to be equals to what? 3. You can see it's the same answer we got here. So it's very, very important I restate in this substitution method that when you make x the subject of formula in either equation 1 or equation 2, you don't substitute it back into, for example, we made s the subject of formula in equation 1. We don't substitute that value for s back into equation 1. For example, if we substitute 5 minus y into this place, now what we're going to have is what? 5 minus y plus y is equals to 5. I just want you to picture that in your head because I'm just putting this as a brief explanation. We don't substitute that. We have to, if we make any of these dependent variables the subject of formula, then we need to substitute it into the opposite or the second equation. That means if we make s the subject of formula here, we substitute it into equation 1. And if we make s the subject of formula here, we substitute it into equation 2. So it goes for y as well. Let's go to number 2. We have 3x plus 4y is equals to negative 2 and x plus y is equals to 0. Now in this case, I want you to see that the coefficient here is what? 3 is the coefficient of s in equation 1. So here you see that 3 is the coefficient of s in equation 1 and 4 is the coefficient of y in equation 1. So here you can see that the coefficient of x here is 3 and the coefficient of y here is 4. That's positive 3 and positive 4. So now our goal when using the elimination method is to make sure that the coefficient of either x or y in equation 1 and equation 2 are the same thing. That's our goal. So what do we want to do? What we want to do is we need to do what? multiply the whole of equation 2 in this case by either -3 or -4. So let's assume this place was +3. We are going to multiply. Okay, let's assume this place was -3. We are going to multiply the whole of equation 2 with +3. And let's assume this place is -4. We are going to multiply the whole of 2 with +4. But in this case, it is what? +3. So we are going to multiply the whole of equation 2 with -3. And if you want to eliminate y, then we are going to multiply the whole of equation 2 with -4. So that's what we are doing here. We have what? 3s plus 4y is equals to -2. S plus y is equals to 0. So we multiply the whole of equation 2 with -4. That's the procedure you can see here. Because we want to eliminate what? We want to eliminate y. Because by the time we multiply y by -4, we're going to have -4 and +4. Yeah, so once we add the two equations together, it will cancel out. So we have 3s plus 4y is equals to -2 minus 4s minus 4y is equals to 0. That is the result of multiplying or expanding this bracket. So after we've opened this bracket, this is what we are going to get: -4s minus 4y is equals to 0. Now you can see that our criteria for using the elimination method is already set, because now we have what? 4y here and -4y here. So if we add equation 1 and equation 2, definitely 4y is going to cancel. So we are going to have what? -4s minus 4y plus 3s plus 4y. So what we are doing basically here is we are adding this part of the equation plus this part of the equation. So we are adding this left hand side of equation 2 plus the left hand side of equation 1. Then we are going to add what? 0 plus -2. That's going to give you -2. So by the time we open the bracket with the invisible one that is here, what we are going to get is what? -4s minus 4y plus 3s plus 4y is equals to -2. We rearrange this whole thing, and then we are going to have what? -4s plus 3s minus 4y plus 4y is equals to 0. Is equals to -2, I mean. So by the time you add these two together, you are going to get what? 0. You see that now? That is the goal of elimination method, to turn one of the dependent variable into 0. So -4s plus 3s is going to give you what? -s. So negative s is equals to -2, because 3s minus 4s is equals to -2. Whenever you have a negative bigger number and a positive smaller number, you can just rearrange it. Bring the positive one to the front, let the negative one be at the back, so you can know what it means. So when you say -4s plus 3s, it means 3s minus 4s. That's what it means. So now, by the time we simplify that, we're going to have -s is equals to -2. So what do? We can cancel out. The negative sign will cancel on both sides. So we have s is equals to 2. So we can now substitute s is equals to 2 into either equation 1 or equation 2. If you substitute s is equals to 2 into equation 2, you see that's easier to solve, because we are just going to take that we are just going to take that 2 to the other side, which will give you y is equals to -2. But let's solve and see what we have. So we've got s is equals to 2. So what we need to do is what? 3s plus 4y is equals to -2. Then we want to substitute s is equals to 2 into equation 1. You can also substitute it into equation 2, but in this case, we are substituting it into equation 1. So we are going to have what? 6, because of when we say 3 times 2, because there's s here, so we are going to replace that with 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 4y is equals to -2. So what do? We can collect like terms. by taking this 6 to the other side or subtracting 6 from both sides, we are going to have what? 4y plus 6 minus 6 is equals to negative 2 minus 6. Basically, what we are doing is what? We are trying to make what? 4y the subject of formula, so we can then divide by 4 to make y the subject of formula. So we are going to have what? 4y plus 6 minus 6 is equals to what? Negative 2 minus 6. So you can simply open all these brackets with a 1, and then we have what? 4y plus 6 minus 6 is equals to negative 2 minus 6. So we are going to have what? 4y is equals to negative 8, because 6 minus 6 will give you what? 0. So 4y is equals to negative 8. You divide both sides by 4, and then you get your value for y here. Your value for y is actually down. You can see your value for y is negative 2. My arrow can't reach there, that's why I'm not pointing at it, but this is your value for y here. You can see the side of my arrow touching it. So let's try solving the same equation using substitution method. So we are going to have what? 3s plus 4y is equals to negative 2, and s plus y is equals to 0. So here you can simply what? Make any of this equation. You can simply make any of these dependent variable, either s or y, the subject of formula, and then you can substitute into the opposite equation. So in this case, you can see that equation 2 is much more simpler. You want to work with the equation that has the less coefficients. So you can see equation 2 is much more simpler with only coefficient of 1. So it will be easier for us to make equation 2, any of the dependent variable in equation 2, the subject of formula. So we can substitute that into equation 1. If we are to work with equation 1, you see that the calculation will be very long, because now it's going to involve fraction. Because if we make s, for example, the subject of formula, we're going to have negative 2 minus 4y divided by 3. That will give us the value of s. But that will be very, very complicated. I want to make our solving as simple as possible. So what we just need to do here is just collect like terms. So by the time you bring this y to the other side, remember, if a sign is crossing an equals to sign, the sign changes to negative, or if it's positive, it will change to negative, or if it's negative, it will change to positive. So that's why we have s is equals to negative y here. So now what do? We need to substitute this value for s in equation 1. That means anywhere you see s in equation 1, you replace it with what? Negative y. So then we are going to have 3 into bracket minus y close bracket plus 4y is equals to negative 2. So what do you do next? You can simply open this bracket. So you can see that we just replace s here with negative y here. So you open this bracket, plus 4y is equals to negative 2. Then after you open this bracket and simplify this whole thing, because we're going to have negative 3y plus 4y is equals to negative 2. So you know 4y minus 3y is going to give you what? Y. I believe that's clear. 4y minus 3y will give you y. And so y will be equals to negative 2. You know that 4y minus 3y, because when we open this, we are going to have minus 3y plus 4y, which will give you what? Y. And that's equals to negative 2. So y is equals to negative 2. You can simply substitute this negative 2 back into equation 2 or equation 1. Anyone you choose will be fine. So you have what? S minus 2 is equals to 0. That means we are substituting negative 2 for y in equation 2. So by the time you collect like time, that will give you s is equals to 2, which you can see is the same thing as what we got using the elimination method. So the basic key point is, in order to solve simultaneous equation using elimination method, we have to ensure that the coefficients are equal. We have to ensure that the coefficients are equal by either multiplying the whole of equation 2 by the coefficient of what? Equation 1, if you observe they are not equal, or multiplying the whole of equation 1 by the coefficient of any of the dependent variable in equation 2, which is exactly what we did here. So how do you know whether to use substitution method or elimination method? In some cases, you might be instructed on what to do, but you need to look at the equation and know the one that will be easier for you to do. For example, if you see an equation that is very complicated like this, it's not so complicated, but for a beginner, it will appear complicated, that has so many coefficients. You might want to go with elimination method because that will be very easy. If you want to use substitution method, you'll be dealing with fraction. That's one of the reason why I won't advise substitution method. It's better you go for elimination method because then you deal with less and less fraction. But in substitution, in the process of making one of the dependent variable the subject of formula, you start dealing with so many fractions, which is not good. Well, for your own sake, for the beginner's sake. But I would advise you to learn both method and be friends with them so you can, flip and alternate between the two. That's the most important thing. So the basic key is you want to use elimination method if you see that you have so many coefficients, or then you can use substitution method if you have a simplified equation like this. But elimination method is usually shorter. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more. We are still going to solve more and more simultaneous questions as we go on.